And welcome back to another episode of Dogs on the Couch, where everybody's allowed to have an opinion. It does not matter if you played the game you are watching. So you're allowed to have an opinion as well. Let's clap it up for Kevin Stefanski, second coach hired off of the board. Shout out to the Atlanta Falcons. Shout out to Matt Ryan. Way to go. You got your guy. Way to go, man. I can't wait to see, how things turn out over there. I believe Bijan Robinson will have a really nice season. If Kevin decides to give him the ball, he might cap his carries at 17. You never know. That's what he was doing with Nick Chubb. So I don't, we don't really know, man. Like we'll see how it goes. If Kyle Pitts is still there, I'm pretty sure Kyle Pitts will have the best season he's ever had in his entire life. He might even be taking snaps from under center. Who knows? So congratulations to Atlanta Falcons for landing your guy. It also sparked an interesting conversation here from one Baker Mayfield, who I reported on this channel about how Mr. Stefanski struggles with interpersonal relationships, with guys who have bravado, or they have certain characteristics about themselves, whether they're confident, or they're outspoken, or they like to wear their hat backwards, or just different things of that nature. Stefanski doesn't really tend to get along with those guys and doesn't really want to coach them all like that, especially if you're the quarterback. And so some random, well, I don't want to call them a random, but somebody had made some statements, kind of welcoming Kevin to the Atlanta Falcons organization, blah, 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 and then kind of saying that, one of the reasons he thinks Stefanski will be successful there, it's because he doesn't have these hot dog water quarterbacks, basically. And then he named Baker Mayfield as one of them. And Baker took the liberty upon himself to fire back, to clap back, and said, I wouldn't necessarily say all that, my guy. He said, I'm still waiting on a text from Coach Stefanski after they shipped me off like a piece of garbage. You know what I mean? And then the part that I couldn't really understand about that was people being upset with Baker Mayfield. Like, oh, that was years ago. Why are you still talking about that? I kind of see that point, but I also see Baker's point as well, because you got to understand, like, that was the team that drafted Baker. You know what I mean? And when Baker was drafted here as the Messiah. Do we have to mention the endless Progressive commercials that we used to see at home with Baker Mayfield? Like, Baker was drafted to the Browns to be the Messiah. He was the chosen one. He was the one that was going to lead the Browns to the promised land. They had finally found their quarterback. And they just loved his moxie. And, that was really the main thing. The moxie. Like, they loved it so much. So from Baker's aspect, like, yeah. Like, I mean, I could see why he would have that animosity, towards Coach Stefanski, because he did kind of mistreat him, kept trotting him out there for whatever reason when he was hurt, and again, with the whole not helping Hudson out on the line and blocking TJ Watt and just letting TJ Watt tee off on Baker, I kind of understand where Baker's coming from, where it's just like, that was the city, the franchise, that drafted him. You know what I'm saying? So that's where you would envision your career being, you know what I mean? And all of those kinds of things. And then it just seemed like, Baker kind of had the reins while he was here. He's a big part of the reason why Freddie Kitchens was hired as head coach. And then you turn around and you move into Stefanski, and you go from a coach who absolutely loves and adores you to a guy that's like this a-hole, kind of. You know what I'm saying? Like, this guy that's just kind of being this prick towards you. You know what I mean? And then you feel like you've played your heart out, for the team and for the city and all of this other stuff. And, they start talking about getting another quarterback, And so, yeah, it's like, I don't blame Baker for wanting to get a trade because people start talking about getting a different quarterback. Because if you talk about getting a different quarterback, well, then clearly you don't think I'm your guy. So if you don't think I'm your guy, well, I don't want to be here. Why would I want to be somewhere where people don't think where you don't want me, where you don't think I'm the guy? Why would I want to be here after that? Why wouldn't I say, well, hey, look, just trade me? Because you're already looking at other quarterbacks. So that tells me that you don't think I'm good. So just trade me somewhere else where I can get a fresh start. And from Baker's mind, like my career was based on being a walk-on anyway. So yeah, just let me go somewhere else and see if I can just duel it out over there somewhere and win the job. So no, I don't, I don't really necessarily see this. Oh, why would he? Why is he still? It's like, yeah, he probably hurt behind that. Like, why wouldn't he be, man? Like, he probably had high hopes and dreams for being the quarterback for the Cleveland Browns for the rest of his career. You know what I mean? Like, so, yeah, being dealt with in that fashion, the way that he was being dealt with, like, yeah, I would have some animosity towards that. And then not only that, the fact that that same coach is coming to the division that you're in, I can't. Like, just like how Baker finished the quote, can't wait to see you twice a year, coach. I would be ready for that too. I mean, we know that this is how Baker is. Like, the chip on the shoulder guy. So he's just doing what he's always done. Like, I don't think he was too out of pocket. Like, I think it's good for football. I think it's good for the game. Create a rivalry. Now everybody can't wait to see that game. The same way that we can't wait to see the game where the Falcons play the Browns. So it's just like all these people nitpicking at Baker. Like, I don't really understand. Like, I don't get it for the most part. Like, I don't know. I can't fathom it. Because, like, for me, I understand kind of where the idea, like, where he was coming from, with his shots that he was taking towards Stefanski. Like, I'm Baker, I kind of understand where he was coming from, bro. Now, very quickly, you know what? We'll do this. We'll do Browns head coaching search. There seems to be this idea floating around that just like, oh, well, see, the Browns job is not attractive. Now these coaches want to go there, blah, 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 blah. Well, again, here's my take on that. Again, any coach who looks at it like, oh, yeah, I can't do anything with that. Well, then, personally, I wouldn't want you here. So the same way that you saying, well, yeah, I don't want that job, but it would be the same way that I'd be saying, well, I don't want you to have it. You know what I'm saying? Like, whoever is going to have the job, I want them to have the confidence level to be like, man, yeah, it don't matter what it is. Like, I can get this. I'm that good of a coach. I can get this together. You already got one. If not the number one defense, is number two in the NFL. Only thing I got to fix is offense and try to see, try to figure out what's going on with the quarterback, which ain't that hard. I'm going to get into that in just a second. Quarterback is finna be next. So for me, the only hire that was just this knock it out the park that like, ooh, yeah, you got to have this guy was Harbaugh. That's it. Stefanski getting hired, well, the Browns fired him, so like I don't, we can't count him. It's like, oh, whoop-de-doo, you got Stefanski, way to go. Like, all right, whatever. Mentor just signed with the Ravens. Kind of hard to blame them. They do have Lamar Jackson over there. So, respectfully, even though I don't think the Browns' job is that bad, if I got a choice between Lamar Jackson and the Browns, I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson. Like, who wouldn't? Like, who's not about to go with Lamar Jackson? That's Lamar Jackson. So, like, yeah, we're going to go with Lamar Jackson. That's kind of a no-brainer, man. Like, it kind of is what it is. That's a no-brainer. So, for now, it looks like they're getting ready to interview Grant Udinski and a gentleman, I forget his name, on the LA Rams staff right now under Sean McVay, who I think will be their Rooney Rule interview. Because for some reason, in my opinion, the three solid candidates that I believe, they're going to select from, would be Schwartz, Udinski, and the gentleman from the Rams. I'm I'm I mean, hey, it is what it is. I'm completely fine with those. I just don't like the idea that like, oh, we're just getting what's left over, and it's like, well, no, I don't necessarily think that. And in fact, I think a lot of these interviews that the Browns were setting up, it's kind of more so to pick people's brains, see what they think about what was being ran and how things were being done, et cetera, et cetera. What schemes and stuff like that, they might have felt didn't work, or what schemes might work better. You know what I'm saying? Those different kinds of things. They're really just kind of picking people's brains more than they just have so much interest in all of these candidates. I don't really think that's the case. I think they're a little bit smarter than that. I think they have, people that ideally they're interested in. And then the other interviews, I believe, is just kind of, let me pick your brain and see what you think. See how see what from the outside looking in, what you might think the problem is. May give us some intel or some insight just as an organization to try to see, maybe we could fix some things or adjust some things here or there, whether you come on as a coach or not. Like, we just want to pick your brain and see what you may be seeing from the outside looking in that maybe we couldn't see from the inside looking out, so to speak. Because again, the Jesse Minter hire with the Ravens, as solid as we want to say that it is, like, well, we got to wait and see. We don't know, because what he's got a hard job to do trying to follow what Harbaugh did over there. Because if, let's just say, dude don't make the playoffs, then what? Then are you so pumped about Jesse Minter? Are you so gung-ho about Jesse Minter then if you don't make the playoffs? Or let's just say you do make the playoffs and you go home in the first round. It's the same thing you was doing with John Harbaugh. So I'm just saying, like, as far as I'm concerned, Jesse Minter got to take you at least to the AFC Championship game. If he doesn't take you there, what good did it do to fire John Harbaugh and get Jesse Minter? What good did it do if you don't at least get to the AFC Championship game? So for me, I think it's a whole lot easier with the Browns to be successful with whomever their new head coach may be, because, to be honest, the bar's a lot lower. Here, you just got to kind of like, let's just make the playoffs consistently. Can we do that? Like, let's just start there. Let's just start with maybe 2 or 3 solid consecutive years of going to the playoffs. You could even lose in the first round. But at least you've built something where you say, nah, each year we're going to the playoff. We have to be viewed as a contender for the playoffs, as opposed to being viewed as the bottom basement level in the AFC North. So I believe that's a lot easier to attain than what they may be looking for with the Ravens and or with the Falcons, honestly. Because they're, with the Falcons in that roster, what they're saying, and what's so crazy is I'm already hearing people say, with the Falcons, oh, well, now they just need a quarterback. That's a bad thing to be saying with Stefanski as your coach. That's a bad thing to be saying. That, well, now all we need is a quarterback. If we just get Kevin the quarterback. Kevin went through 22 quarterbacks with the Browns and couldn't find one that he could work with. And I mean, there were all kinds of, number 1 overall draft picks, franchise quarterbacks from other people's teams, guys that came off the couch, retread people like Jacoby Brissett. I mean, you name it. You got quarterbacks from all different walks of life, all different places, and somehow he just couldn't figure it out with any of them for it to be his guy. So I don't know. Maybe it works with Kirk Cousins for a year because that used to be his guy. Maybe it still can be his guy. I don't know. But Michael Penix, you on the clock, bro. I don't know. And you might want to stop wearing them do-rags. I don't think Stefanski don't want you wearing no do-rags. So you might want to take the do-rag off. And don't wear no chains either. Don't wear no chains. Don't wear no do-rags. Okay? And then maybe Stefanski he might talk to you. Maybe he might pay you some attention. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he might actually say something to you. But you got to take that do-rag off. And no chains. Don't wear no chains. So, which leads me to quarterbacks. Because with Cleveland and Cleveland media, and again, I'm as the coaching searches and different things like that go on, I'm gonna have some more clips of stupid Cleveland media saying stupid stuff. I got some currently, but this one I wanted to have like just kind of a little shorter video, just kind of addressing some of the things that's going on. But trust me, we're gonna get to all of the contradiction people and the weak Cleveland media that's just extremely stupid. I don't understand how half these people got these jobs. The Anthony Limas and the Daryl Writers and the Rick Cabots and, you know what I'm saying, the Jason Lords. I don't understand Adam the Bull sometimes, even though he's gotten a little bit better. He's gotten a little bit better over time. He still has some crazy stuff that he says sometimes. He's gotten a little bit better though. But, you know, they're just absolutely ridiculous. I don't understand how people have jobs. And they're all quarterback. That's all they feel like. It's just quarterback. If you don't have a quarterback, you can't do anything. All right, well, tell that to the Baltimore Ravens, who won with Trent Dilfer. All right, tell that to the Philadelphia Eagles, who won with Nick Foles. I mean, it's a few more that I could name. There's no need to keep going down that road. The point is, there have been teams that have won, not just won, but actually won it all, without having this superstar franchise quarterback. I remember even the Chicago Bears, they didn't win, but they at least went to the Super Bowl. They went to the Super Bowl with Rex Grossman. Now, they lost, but, I mean, you went to the Super Bowl with Rex Grossman. I digress. Now, I want to just quickly try to debunk this myth of quarterback. Because ironically, in the set of games that took place this past weekend, where we had, the Bills versus the Broncos, the Niners and the Seahawks, we had the Patriots and the Texans, and then we had the Rams versus the Bears. The quarterback play was awful. The quarterback play was absolutely awful. In fact, like the best quarterback play probably came from Matthew Stafford. And he finished with no touchdowns, no interceptions. That was like the best quarterback play out of all of the quarterbacks who played this past weekend. Let's just go through some of these guys' numbers. Josh Allen, quarterback, franchise quarterback. He was 25 for 39, 283 yards, so he didn't have a 300-yard passing game because, that's what we love, 300 yards to 300, throw for 300. Why can't you throw for 300? The franchise quarterback. So 25 for 39, 283 yards, 3 touchdowns, but he had 2 interceptions and 2 fumbles. 2 interceptions and 2 fumbles? Is that Shedeur? Oh, no, that's Josh Allen with 2 interceptions and 2 fumbles in this playoff game, not a regular season game. Let's take a look at Bo Nix. Oh, and just as I'm reading these numbers, just so we clear, by me reading the numbers, I'm not taking anything away from just the player in general, Josh Allen, but I just want to use this as how when people talk about with the Browns quarterbacks, be it Deshaun Watson or Shedeur Sanders, be it, when they talk about the Browns quarterbacks, all they want to look at is the numbers. That's the only thing they want to look at. They don't want to do any eye tests. They just want to look at the numbers. So when I'm reciting these numbers, I'm not excluding the eye test. I'm an eye test person. I know how to look at it and see if it got good or not. You know what I'm saying? So don't get me twisted. I'm not saying that, but I'm just using the Cleveland media logic. Quarterback. Quarterback has to be elite and do all this and this and that in order for you to win a game. Okay, so now let's look at Bo Nix. 26 for 46, 50% completion percentage. So for everybody like, low completion percentage. Well, it was at 50%. Not a great completion percentage. Threw the ball 46 times. 26 of 46 for Bo Nix. 279 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, but he also added an interception and a fumble. So you got 50% passing completion percentage with an interception and a fumble. Now you had your three touchdowns. I'm not, hey, you know what I'm saying? But if you franchise quarterback, that interception and that fumble, well, we need to get rid of at least one of those. Because if it isn't for Brandon Cooks not being able to secure and fight for the football, Bo Nix loses this game. And the Denver Broncos are at home. But because Brandon Cooks likes to let defensive backs yank the ball away from him, It's Josh Allen that's at home instead of Bo Nix. Let's move on to the next. Brock Purdy, 15 to 27, 140 passing yards. So he only threw for 140. Is that Shedeur? Oh no, that's Brock Purdy. 15 for 27, 140 yards, no touchdowns, an interception and a fumble. Is that Shedeur? Oh no, that's Brock Purdy in the playoffs. That's who that is. Franchise quarterback under Kyle Shanahan. 15 for 27, only 140 passing yards, no touchdowns, an interception and a fumble. And that's from a franchise quarterback. Let's take a look at Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, the retread quarterback, could be a franchise guy now, right? Retread, because people will talk about, where he was drafted as far as first round. But my issue with that is when you're talking about his success now and trying to relate it to where he was drafted, I don't do that, because his success has not come with the team that drafted him. So I can't do that, because the team that drafted him was the ones who picked him where he was picked at. And whatever their coaching situation was or whatever it was over there, it didn't work out. That's, to me, proof that it ain't just the quarterback. It's not just quarterback. That's not it. Because if that's the case, why Sam Darnold, when he looked good with the Vikings and he looked good with the Seahawks, why he ain't look like that with the Jets? Why he ain't look like that over there? Oh, because it's more than just quarterback. It's more than just that. You got to have receivers, you got to have linemen, you got to run game, you got to have good coaches, you got to have good schemes. All of that matters, not just quarterback. Because in Minnesota, I think we know the wide receiver that he had over there. If we don't know, it's Justin Jefferson. Jordan Addison is pretty good too. Over here with the Seahawks, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Are we serious? Then you add Cooper Kupp, and you traded for Rashid Shaheed a little bit later in the season. Stupid nice receiving core. Okay, so it's more than just quarterback. It's more than just that. Sam Darnold's numbers: 12 of 17, only had 17 pass attempts for the entire game. 124 yards, only threw for 124. One touchdown, no picks. That is a very pedestrian game. He just managed the game. That's all he did. He wasn't out there just throwing for 300, 400 yards and 3-4 touchdowns. He didn't do that. He just managed the game. That's it. That's all he did. At 12 for 17, 124 yards, one touchdown, that's it. That's all he did was just manage the game. That's it. It's nothing spectacular. He just managed the game. Great job. It's not that hard. C.J. Stroud, quarterback. Okay? Where was he drafted at? Huh? And then what's so crazy is the Cleveland media was talking about, oh yeah, we traded the number 6 overall pick in a heartbeat with the Texans to get C.J. Stroud. Oh, wait a minute. So you get ready to trade more first round picks to the same team for the same position that you claim and set your franchise back for 40 years. You want to trade for that again? Because mind you, when you traded for Deshaun Watson, he was top 5 in the NFL. When you talking about you would trade this 6 overall pick for C.J. Stroud, this is after he did this in the playoffs. 20 for 47. That's less than 50% completion percentage. 20 for 47. 212 yards, 1 TD, 4 interceptions. Let me say this again. 20 for 47, less than 50% completion percentage. If that was Shedeur, you'd be killing him. 212 yards, you'd be like, well, why you can't throw for 300? What's going on? Why can't you throw for 300? 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions. Let Shedeur have a 4 interception game. Let Shedeur Sanders or Deshaun Watson have a 4 interception game. Do you think that the Browns media would be talking about trading for that guy? And if Shedeur was playing for the Texans and he had a 4 interception game, do you think that the Browns would be like, yeah, we really want to trade for that guy? What? Have you been watching C.J. Stroud the last 2 years? He had a phenomenal rookie year. But the last 2 years have been super mid at best. Super mid. And then your playoff performances have been awful. Absolutely awful. Because Even with the numbers, if you was watching him play, it was worse than that. It was almost like at one point the stuff was just in his head. It was like he was just overwhelmed, like it was too much, like the lights was too bright for him. I don't know. Okay, but you know, even with as poorly as he was playing, the team was keeping him in the defense, and the team was keeping him in the game. The problem was C.J. Stroud was butt cheeks. He was cheeks, and then you mean to tell me that you so gung-ho and willing to go trade for him? Why? After he was just so cheeks in the playoffs. In the playoffs. Not the regular season. It'd be different if that was like week 5 of the regular season. Then he went on to do better. No, this is in the playoffs. When all the chips, when it counts the most, when you need your quarterback the most. He couldn't even manage the game like Sam Darnold. He out there throwing 4 interceptions. He threw 4 picks. I digress. Let's move on. Drake May. Quarterback. Drake May's rookie season wasn't just blowing people away. You could see with the eye test that he had the talent, and you could see the flashes and stuff like that. But you had to change around a few things. You had to get him a number 1 wide receiver, Stephon Diggs. Mind you, the Browns would have never done nothing like that, especially with Stefanski here, because Diggs has a personality. And if you bring a person in with a personality here and you tried to pair him with Kevin, it wasn't finna work. So again, it wasn't like Drake May is just still over there throwing the garbage cans. Like they went and got him a real live number 1 receiver. And then you go ahead, put Keyshawn Boutte in there and, you know, whoever else. You know, Hunter Henry at tight end. And you got a really nice run game with Stevenson and Trevion Henderson. Then you throw in the head coach. You throw in the new head coach. There you go. You off and running. It wasn't, oh, well, they just got the quarterback and see everything turned around. Nope. If that was the case, then they would have been in the playoffs last year because that's when they got Drake May. So it isn't just get the quarterback and then bam, there you go. No, you got to have a lot more than just the quarterback. You got to have much more than just that. Drake May, 16 of 27, 179 yards, 3 TDs, but he had an interception and 4 fumbles. Quarterback. Is this, wait a minute, is this Shedeur? Oh no, that's Drake May, who's only throwing for 179 yards. He had 3 touchdowns, but he had more fumbles than he had touchdowns, unfortunately. 3 touchdowns, 4 fumbles, and 1 interception. And he just got lucky enough that I think 1 or 2 of those fumbles ended up being recovered by the Patriots. But if they wasn't recovered by the Patriots, then we talking about it's a different story here. They end up losing that game with them 4 fumbles. We having a much different conversation about Drake May and the New England Patriots. Let's move on to Matthew Stafford, the one that I said probably had the best quarterback play. 20 of 42, that's less than 50% completion percentage. Wow, man, a lot of these quarterbacks are either at 50% completion percentage or less than. This is what's so crazy, but we love to talk about the Browns quarterbacks completion percentage, like not knowing that a lot of these times when you're getting these incomplete passes, you're throwing the ball away instead of taking a sack. That's what you're doing, which is actually a smart play. Throw the ball away instead of taking a sack. Yeah, it goes down as an incompletion, but I'd rather it go down as an incompletion than to go down as a sack. Like we got to start mentioning that. Cleveland media, we got to start talking about that, man. Stafford's numbers: 20 for 42, 258 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, but he did have 2 fumbles. Seems like a common theme here, man. A lot of these franchise quarterbacks, a lot of them seem to be throwing interceptions and fumbling in a playoff game. A lot of them seem to be throwing interceptions and fumbling the ball quite a bit. Quarterback. Like, this the standard? Freaking interceptions and fumbles in playoff games? That's the standard for a franchise quarterback? Okay, let's go to the last one. Caleb Williams, 23 for 42, right around 50% completion percentage, 257 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 3 interceptions and a fumble, of course. So again, dare I say, is this Shedeur? Oh no, that's Caleb Williams, who, mind you, last year in his rookie season wasn't necessarily blowing people's socks off. It was kind of like a mixed bag of stuff. There were times where you could see the flashes, and then there were other times where you kind of like, I don't know about Caleb. But they bolster up their offensive line, get a new head coach and play caller in Ben Johnson, and what do you know? They're off and running. So it wasn't just quarterback. It wasn't just, well, let's just get the quarterback and we're good to go. We're going to start winning. No, there was more that you had to add. You added the quarterback, you added the offensive line, and then the coach to work with said quarterback. So it isn't just quarterback, like Cleveland media wants you to think. Quarterback, because I'm willing to say that as much as, because Fernando Mendoza has made me a believer. I felt like the jury was out on him. That's why I didn't do too much talking about him. It's like, I really don't know. You know what I'm saying? I have no idea. I really don't know. I don't know. And I really ain't did too much talking about him as far as where he's going to be drafted and should he be the number 1 overall pick? Should you be tanking to get him and all this other stuff? Now, I don't believe ever in tanking. People like Quincy Carrier wanted the Browns to lose the last 2 games so that they could have the number 1 pick and get Fernando Mendoza. Well, let me explain something to you. What I do think about Fernando Mendoza is, as much as I think he's legit, because I think he's legit. I do. I think he's legit. He's going to go number 1 overall, probably to the Raiders, because they got the number 1 pick. I don't think they're going to trade out of it. You go over there with what offensive line and what wide receivers? What wide receivers do they have over there? The one wide receiver that they had, they traded him to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think it was Jacoby Myers. I think was the number 1 receiver that they had over there, Jacoby Myers. And they traded him away to Jacksonville Jaguars. So what offensive line do Fernando Mendoza have over there? What wide receivers do Fernando Mendoza have over there? Who's the coach again? Because they just fired Pete Carroll, right? So is Fernando Mendoza supposed to just come there, and just because Fernando Mendoza's there, should we pencil the Raiders in for 11 wins, 10 wins? Should we do that? Or is it clear as day that even though you got Fernando Mendoza, you're going to have to surround him with other things to be successful? Like a good offensive line, a couple more wide receivers, like, because, you know, I don't think you can just throw it to Brock Bowers the whole game. Look at how we do. Look at how the Browns do with Harold Fannin. Because if you just only got one guy, God forbid that guy gets hurt, then what do you do? So he's going to need an offensive line. He's going to need a couple more weapons, and he's going to need a good coach that believes in him and can scheme something up for him. That's what he's going to need. Okay? Because the Fernando Mendoza that's at Indiana, he ain't look like that at Cal. So clearly, Cignetti is doing something with him over there. That's got him, you know, that's helped have him look the way that he looks currently. Because he didn't look like that the whole time. So again, it takes more than just a quarterback so that we can get that understood, Cleveland media. We're going to take a look at what happens with these conference championship games this upcoming weekend, and we'll keep an eye out on the coaching carousel. Dogs on the couch, signing off.